Hello, everyone, and welcome to Best Practices and Insights to Optimize Your Cloud Journey. Today's webinar is sponsored by Gigamon and Nutanix and is produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Keith Ward. I'm with Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for this special event. But before we get to today's content, we do have a few housekeeping items you need to know about that'll help you get the most out of this session. To start with, we encourage any and all questions in the questions box in your webinar control panel. Now that Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues you might be experiencing. A browser refresh will fix most audio, video, and slide advancement issues. So that's your first stop. Just refresh your browser. If that doesn't work, let us know in the Q&A, and we will certainly provide further technical assistance. Okay, in the handout section of your webinar control panel, now you'll find that right next to that questions tab. It's up there in the same place. You will see some great resources there that I strongly encourage you to download and check out. And that includes 3 valuable handouts from Gigamon and Nutanix. You've got the whole event to download those and make use of them. So take full advantage and check out that handout section right now. When you're there, you'll also find a link to the Gorilla Guide Book Club where you can get access to Actual Tech Media's vast library of books on a wide range of technology topics. Also there, you'll find a link to the ATM Event Center, which has our calendar of upcoming events, including some really intriguing ones. So take a look at what we've got. And if you see something that looks good to you, why don't you sign up right now and join us for some more events. And lastly, at the end of this webinar event, we'll be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one of you. Now, you do have to be in attendance during the entire live event to qualify for the prize. And the official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handout section. For those of you who like really boring legalese, that is something you'll want to check out as well. All right. So, with that, everyone, it is time to get to the main event. We have got a superb presentation coming up, and it is my pleasure to introduce you to our presenters today that you can see there. Chris Dittert, Director of Strategic Alliances for Gigamon, and Aniket Daptari, Director of Product Management for Nutanix. Now, Chris is kicking this off, so I am going to send this your way, Chris. The floor is yours. Take it away.
Thanks, Keith. Hey, great to be with you folks. Appreciate the opportunity to share this information today. My name is Chris Dittert. I'm Director of Strategic Alliances here at Gigamon. Been a part of the Gigamon company for a little more than 2 years. Very fortunate in my role to work with one of our strategic alliance partners in Nutanix and to be joined in this session by Aniket. Aniket, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Chris. And first of all, thanks to the entire team at Gigamon for giving us this platform and the opportunity to share our thoughts. It's been wonderful partnering with Gigamon, and we look forward to taking the partnership to newer heights. Quick few words about myself. I'm Aniket Daptari. I am Director of Product Management for all things networking and network security at Nutanix. I joined Nutanix about 3.5 years ago, and prior to that, spent an entire career across Juniper, Cisco, Force10, and Allied Telesin in the networking industry in various different roles, ranging from engineering to solutions to technical marketing to product management in various aspects of networking. My most recent experience before coming to Nutanix was in software-defined networking and software-defined network security. And with that, actually, I'm excited to participate with Gigamon in this webinar.
Thanks, Aniket. Yeah, so excited to have you here as well. Your experience in networking security is extremely valuable and some insights. So the session today is really focusing on the cloud journey. And both Aniket and I have had an opportunity to talk to numerous customers in our times at our respective companies. And as the conversations go, there always seems to be a personal position on what cloud looks like. And so what we really want to start with here is is that customers are making the decision to move to cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, cloud native. What really is hybrid multi-cloud? So, Aniket, if you don't mind, let's start off with that topic. What really are we talking about when we talk about hybrid multi-cloud?
Yes, Chris, that's a great question to begin the conversation. It allows us to kind of set the context and sort of level the playing field. So I'll share my thoughts and please chime in, Chris. To begin with, let's focus on the term cloud itself. And it's important to clarify, or it's important that it's now increasingly become apparent in the industry that when you say cloud, you don't mean a particular one anymore, especially not just the public clouds. We must acknowledge that the idea of infrastructure as a service and the ideals of consumption were first introduced to us by the public clouds. Those aspects, though, are not confined to the public clouds alone. So, in summary, cloud really refers to a set of principles with which you manage and run infrastructure, a set of principles that includes on-demand self-service consumption of infrastructure, and the ability to deploy automation for regular and periodic tasks involving infrastructure. That is what defines the cloud operating principles. And any place you can apply these principles is really cloud. It doesn't have to be confined to the public cloud. It could be on-prem, it could be a co-location center, or even an edge location. And that realization, in turn, has given birth to the idea of hybrid. Now, according to IDC estimates, roughly 30% of current public cloud workloads will be repatriated on premise in some form or the other. And I encourage our audience to read a landmark publication from Andreessen Horowitz's Martin Casado. The publication is titled The Cost of Cloud, a $1 trillion Paradox. In that publication, Martin makes the argument that as industry experience with cloud matures, we see a more complete picture of the cloud lifecycle on the company's economics. And it is becoming increasingly evident that while cloud early on delivers on its promise, early on in the company's journey, later in the company's life, the pressure it ends up putting on the company's margins, that pressure can start to outweigh the benefits as the company scales and the growth starts slowing. Cases, this shift happens later in the company's life, and their realization is leading to the customers are increasingly realizing that adoption of cloud does not have to be exclusive. It does not have to be all or nothing. It does not have to be either on-prem or public cloud. For various reasons, as we will discuss further, customers have also come to realize that using each cloud for what it is good for works best in the long run. And this has led to the emergence of hybrid multi-cloud. Clearly, what therefore it means is a deployment model which uses the best of on-prem and multiple public clouds, and an architectural choice that does not restrict or confine the user and gives them that freedom of choice. The flexibility to choose the cloud best for the workload and the circumstance is key to this journey. And Chris, I'd also like to invite you to share your thoughts. And among other things, I'd love for you to also, talk about the idea of dual vendor or multi-vendor and how it used to be very relevant a few years back, especially in the context of on-prem. I'd love for you to please share your thoughts.
Yeah, Aniket, it's interesting as you were going through that exercise of thought there. I immediately went back to my data center days, right? Back when multi-vendor was just kind of part of the norm from an operating principle of keeping my vendors sharp in what they're delivering up to the latest with what they're able to provide, and ensuring as a customer, right, making sure I'm getting the best bang for the buck for what I'm offering, because not all vendors were at the same level from a feature set perspective. If we pick that up and think about it in the cloud world, it's a similar model. The point that you just bring up, right, is not all cloud vendors are able to provide the full set of services that you want, and some provide something better than others do. So this multi-vendor strategy, I think, is something we're going to continue to see. We are certainly on our side, are certainly seeing many customers are adopting a hybrid multi-cloud strategy, and it does allow for customers to provide the appropriate platform and the speed and relevancy in the market to deliver what they want to be able to deliver. But it does also create challenges as a part of it. I mean, as we've talked through this process of what hybrid multi-cloud is, there are some pitfalls to keep in mind, right? That customers should be mindful about. Now, why don't we talk, as we transition to the next slide? Why don't we talk about that a little bit? Right? Is there is benefits from hybrid multi-cloud so long as you are effectively managing it, but there's also challenges that are tied to it, right? And how do you make sure that you are actually getting the best bang for your buck? Because it all comes down to, how do I deliver the services I need to for my company at the best price possible? So, Aniket, let's talk about some of those potential pitfalls that customers may be experiencing.
Yes, Chris, and yet another $1 million question. To answer this, I'm going to rely on another expert. In the first question, we relied on Martin Casado and his landmark publication. And for this particular question, I think we should really, I again encourage our audience to read Avi Friedman's landmark publication. And this one's titled 3 Infrastructure Mistakes Your Company Must Not Make. Now, a quick background on who is Avi Friedman. Avi is currently the CEO of this company called Kentic. He founded that company, and Kentic provides customers complete visibility into their network traffic, performance, security, and so on and so forth. But Avi's also played some important roles at Akamai and a few other places. Now, and therefore, what Avi says is kind of important. What Avi says is something to be taken seriously. Now, what Avi says in this article is that companies start off quite optimistically with the public cloud, often going all in and often driven or based on the heavy credits that are offered by the public cloud providers. And these credits, while they last, it's a great honeymoon period for cash-strapped startups. But as those credits start getting used up, as those credits start drying up, there's often a harsh realization. They wake up to the reality that they're spending way too much money on infrastructure. The other harsh realization is that now they're completely beholden to the cloud provider. The costs to switch out of that cloud are extremely high, and there's a realization that you're now hooked on to those cloud providers for what they do for you, and it's becoming increasingly difficult and expensive to migrate off. That realization is cloud jail. And Avi explains this in a slightly more elaborate manner, and we encourage our audience to take a look at that publication. Avi makes a couple other important points in the article. And one of them is about having the right motivations to move to the cloud and choosing it for the right reasons. And often we find customers telling us that a certain hipster tool led them to choose a particular cloud. Hipster tools offered by a cloud should not end up being the reason you choose cloud A versus cloud B, right? And then the third point is actually something that I think, Chris, you should help us understand a little better.
Yeah, this whole thought of observability and monitorability, unfortunately, it's not at the onset of, or at least historically, hasn't been at the onset of developing the application. We're starting to see that change now, which is a great thing in the market. But historically, it has not been, and because of that, some of the challenges that customers have faced as they try to move their workloads to the cloud is they may not really know all the dependencies that have been tied historically on-prem, tied to that application. So as they do try to do lift and shift, which some have, sometimes they are successful, but many times they discover that they weren't completely ready to move it. Now, at the same time, customers are also rethinking their applications as they're moving to the cloud, right? And they're starting to introduce different microservers or thinking about changing how the application is created, making more container-based versus historically, the developed on-prem. This also opens up the opportunity of ensuring that performance is always there, that availability is always there, and that explicitly ties into monitorability and observability, right? And if you don't have the ability to actually get into the depth of what's happening across the application, across the systems, across the network, which both of us are very, very familiar with, right? If you don't have the ability to do that, then you're putting yourself at risk from being able to deliver exactly what the company needs, what the business requires to be successful. So historically, we've seen that being a challenge. I think it's getting a little bit better now than what it was. And you're seeing a growth in the observability and monitoring tools to be able to offer that. And speaking from an ecosystem partner perspective, we both have mutual ecosystem partners that are helping to tie both of our technologies together to bring that much more value to the customers, right? So talking a little bit about ourselves, I think that's a good transition maybe into the third point, right? Is so we've effectively talked about customers want to choose hybrid multi-cloud, right? And we've talked about that, we've given some ideas and things to be mindful of. So what are the things that, Aniket, from a Nutanix perspective, and I'll obviously talk from a Gigamon perspective, that we have together that may be able to make this possible for our customers?
Right. So I think what we've spoken about thus far is actually leading to the point that the thing customers are really seeking is the ability to have seamless workload mobility in true sense, right? Because they want the ability to choose the right cloud, the right substrate for the right workload and the right circumstance. Being able to locked into one cloud is something that we've warned the customers they should avoid. Ultimately, the products, the solutions they choose should not preclude that from happening. Now, if that's your considerations, if that's the consideration that's driving the choice of the platform, what the platform should really provide our customers is some sense of an abstraction layer. Now, again, the notion of abstraction or a layer that provides abstraction is not new to our industry, right? It's just not sufficiently used in the context of this hybrid multi-cloud environment. So an abstraction layer would abstract the underlying specifics, whether irrespective of which substrate the customer is choosing to run their workloads on, whether it's on premise or one or any other of the public clouds. The value that the abstraction layer provides is that of consistency, is that workloads expect consistency, or workloads can now be assured of consistency because the underlying substrate and its specifics, its vagaries, its differences are completely abstracted out. As a result of that, the workload doesn't have to change, evolve, or have to be re-architected when it goes from one substrate to the other. This in turn makes clouds invisible, right? Nutanix has often used this phrase, we are making clouds invisible. What we mean by making clouds invisible is to hide the differences across these cloud substrates. Now, to that end, what we provide to our customers is a complete infrastructure as a service software stack. And before I make that point, let me quickly remind our customers, our audience, that the promise of the public cloud was the elasticity and agility of infrastructure. What the idea with which they were born was the idea of infrastructure as a service, right? And so let's use the public clouds for what they are good for. What the promise is that of the elasticity in and agility in consumption of infrastructure, right? And it's the layer of software that comes on top of that elastic infrastructure that's actually causing the aspect of cloud jail that Avi Friedman refers to in his article. And therefore the importance of the abstraction layer, a uniform and a consistent abstraction layer that hides the vagaries of the clouds. So to that end, what does Nutanix have to provide? What Nutanix provides is, first and foremost, Nutanix's history, its origins lie in providing a complete stack of software that provides infrastructure as a service, that enables your environment to be run and operated as an infrastructure as a service stack. So what we've now done is, in the past, our customers were able to use that infrastructure as a service software stack from Nutanix in their on-premise environments. And now what we've done is we've come up with the idea of what is called as Nutanix Cloud Clusters, NC2. So that entire stack is available to run on the bare metal that's offered by public cloud providers. So on top of public cloud bare metal, you run the infrastructure as a service software stack provided by Nutanix. This ability is called Nutanix Cloud Clusters. It's currently available on AWS and Azure. And in effect, what we are doing is we are providing a consistent abstraction layer. And therefore, and by virtue of the networking stack that's comprised within NC2, the networking stack, if you're a Nutanix customer, you are probably familiar with the Flow portfolio. The Flow portfolio offers network virtualization and network security. And the virtue of that layer of the Nutanix software stack is that it provides complete IP preservation, seamless IP mobility, and while workloads move back and forth between one substrate and the other, their networking coordinates, their networking identity does not have to change. You also have the ability to stretch the layer to subnets as workloads fail over back and forth, or as workloads migrate back and forth. So effectively, abiding by the principles we are advocating of the architectural choice, not precluding customers from using one stack or the other, one cloud or the other, what we recommend is the use of the idea of Nutanix Cloud Clusters and Nutanix's Flow software, the Flow portfolio, which gives complete consistency both of features and functionality and the interfaces to consume those features across workload types, across VMs and containers, and across clouds, across on-premise and any of the public clouds, thus allowing customers to accomplish the ideal of being able to write their apps once, but then deploy them anywhere. And I know there is a big aspect of observability, and for which I want to pass the baton back to you, Chris.
Yeah, Aniket, thank you for sharing all of that, because I've been fortunate in working with Nutanix and see this actually unfold, and I'm very impressed with what you guys have done. But the value you bring doesn't really negate the fact that customers still need to be able to have that visibility into what's going on, because as the workload moves, you still got the infrastructure that may be in place, and whenever a challenge comes up, the finger pointing start, right? It immediately goes between the application, the network, the infrastructure team. Is it the cloud issue? Is it the internet? Where is the problem? We just need to make sure that the application is responding as the customer requires it, as our business requires it. And that's really where I think the partnership with Gigamon lays in, is our ability to actually get complete visibility to what's happening on the network, actually seeing the packets as they travel along, and capturing those and sharing them with our ecosystem partners, our observability partners, to get deep observability, deep packet inspection into those, to look at application metadata, to see those latency choke points that may be out there, and being able to ensure that if it is a network issue, here's where the problem is, and we can go get it resolved. Or if it's not, getting that mean time to innocence that the network team likes to be able to have, and point them to a direction so that they they can go and resolve that. But if we want to have the ability to actually move our workloads from one place to another, then we can't just rely on a specific cloud provider's tools, because their tool is probably not going to work in a different cloud provider's environment,
Precisely.
right? So we need that ability to have visibility into the hybrid multi-cloud environment, ideally from a single partner that's going to be able to give you that complete visibility, and with a technology platform just like Nutanix is being able to offer. Just really helps simplify what's going on. But as a part of that, there's also still those challenges that come up. I mean, security is one of those big challenges that we've seen get faced out there. And I know you in your role there have complete visibility into what you're doing on the network security side. And I guess I'd just like to go back to you, give you a chance to talk a little bit about, as you are putting together this seamless infrastructure, the network security piece is a critical component of it, right?
Yes, precisely. And what we've been advocating in general about not being able to locked in, about having an abstraction layer, about having consistency, it applies equally to networking, to storage, to observability, and it applies just as much to the aspect of security, network security. The idea is the security posture should not change based on where the workload is running. And therefore, when a workload goes or migrates from one substrate to the other, so should its security posture. And ideally, the way the security is enforced, that should also migrate with the workload as it goes from one substrate to the other. So that's the promise of the combination of Flow and NC2 from Nutanix, that you get consistency in the promise of security, in the sense that what the workloads may expect from the underlying platform, there is a consistency of what the workloads should and can expect, and what the workloads can leverage. And therefore, when the workload migrates from one substrate to the other, the the security posture continues to remain equally sound and equally secure. So again, the idea is that of consistency. No matter where you go, workloads ought to be secured in the same consistent, secure manner.
Yeah, Aniket, thanks so much. I think what we were trying to do in this session was to give some visibility into the experiences you and I have had with customers, and some of the challenges that we've seen them face as a part of making their decision on how to embrace cloud as a part of the strategy, because we both feel that they certainly should. There is certainly the value in it, especially the operating principle. I like that phrase that you used, the operating principles that are associated with it.
Right.
And the fact that our partnership brings significant value for both the actual delivery of seamless workload mobility, and the value of being able to have complete visibility into what's transpiring there. So I really appreciate the opportunity to have this session with you. And I think, Keith, let's turn it over and see if there's now any questions that have come in.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris and Aniket, thanks so much for what is a fascinating discussion for topics that are only becoming more and more important to every organization. These days, everyone's kind of wondering what to do next with cloud. There's a lot of trepidation, a lot of innovation, a lot of opportunity there as well. So I think you've clarified a lot of things for us today, and we are getting some good questions coming in. And let's hop right into some of those. So first one, and either one of you or both of you can answer if you would like. So this is our CFO, our Chief Financial Officer, has given us clear instructions that there are to be no new build outs in our data centers. Which public cloud should I choose? That's more of a question for you, Aniket, I would imagine. But Chris, you're welcome to weigh in as well.
Now, like we've been having throughout the rest of this discussion, let's keep it conversational. I'll start off, but Chris, please feel free to weigh in. I'll go back to what we've been saying all along in this past few minutes, is that the idea of which cloud is really the wrong way of thinking about the problem, right? The way we have to think about the problem is that all clouds should be accessible to me. Each cloud has things that it is good for, and has certain other things that it may not be the best option for. So based on the workload, based on the situation, based on the circumstance, if it's a seasonal spike in your traffic, um, based on the situation, based on the workload, should govern the choice of your cloud, of the cloud where you choose to deploy your workloads. And the architecture that you're using for this hybrid multi-cloud, it's most important that it does not preclude you from that mobility, and that it gives you consistency. Each time workloads move from one substrate to the other, you shouldn't be forced to change the posture, whether it's networking, network security, observability. You should not be compelled to make en masse changes as you go from one substrate to the other. So again, the way to think about the question is not which cloud, but all clouds. I should have the ability to use each cloud for what it is good for. Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just say that you answered that much more eloquently than I would, because my answer would have been it depends, right? It really allows you to determine. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? You can't just say go with this public cloud. That cannot be a blanket statement. That's just not. That's a uh, an irrational, in my opinion, irrational approach of how to go and actually adopt cloud, right? You, as a provider for your company, you need to be able to understand what each one provides, what are the benefits of each one, what are the expertise in each one. The services scope are not the same across all cloud vendors, and so that's where it's really doing your investigation. So to give you an answer to say this is the one to go to would be a disservice by either one of us. And again, I think Aniket answered it much more eloquently than I would about what to look for.
And there are,
Oh,
changing.
your answer was just fine, Chris. No
There's
worries
one
at all.
little
That
thing
was
I'd like
great.
to add, Keith, and
Sure, sure.
another consideration, which is that the cost factors, the monetary factors keep on evolving, keep on changing, and what may be good for your workload today may not be the case tomorrow, or may not be the case later this afternoon, and which is also sort of leading to the everything we said. What it's important to realize that your workload should have the dynamicity, because situations will evolve. What one cloud is good for today may not be true even later this afternoon, let alone tomorrow or next month or next year.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for that. Okay, next question. We attendee asks, we are currently in a hybrid cloud environment. So just as a quick definition, so that's, you have operations and data or whatever on premises and up in the cloud. You have it in two different locations, at least two different
At least two.
locations.
Right.
And so for someone in a hybrid cloud environment like that, any suggestions or best practices regarding security? And I think this is the kind of thing that maybe both of you should take a crack at. So why don't we start with you, Chris?
Yeah. So I've heard it said that cloud is simple until it isn't, right? And security has been one of those big red stirring lights that has caused a lot of investigation to clearly understand that it is not simple, right? We've all read plenty of unfortunate articles and seen news recently about some of the exposures that have happened in public cloud environments, right? Not to mention stuff that still happens, in private cloud or on on-prem environments. But but public cloud environments is, and this is where it's really important for customers to understand, the shared responsibility model that takes place between your cloud providers and you as the owner and operator of your business and your data. There are still responsibilities we have as subscribers in the cloud that we must own, and cannot require the cloud service provider to deliver. And security is one of those critical ones. Now they need to make sure that all the technical infrastructure that requires the protection that needs in place. But typically, more than not, right, breaches happen because, as much as anything, stuff we do ourselves, human risk factors. And while that's hard to address, there are things that you can put in place that, when maybe a human makes a mistake or somebody does get phished or happen, how do I catch those things as soon as something has happened? And that's where it's really critical to make sure that all your security policies are up to speed, that everybody in your company knows how to utilize them. But you do have to have that observability and that ability to recognize when something negative is happening inside your environment, and being able to send it to the right tools to notify you that that's taking place, so that you can take an action, right? And while Aniket talked about things that they've done already as a part of the platform, the ability to move those workloads and having that network security built in, so you can actually move your workloads as you need, you do need that depth of what's going on. There are plenty of technologies that are in place already to help you with it. There's flow logs and whatever that's happening up in the cloud service providers, but we've all seen how logs can sometimes be manipulated. That's why at Gigamon we kind of view the packet and that network traffic as the single source of truth. You really can't do anything with the traffic. Packets are going to be happening, and with our ability to look at each packet that's going across the wire, do deep packet inspection on it. Now, and just last month, we introduced this ability of getting pre-encryption, or the ability to see plain text of encrypted traffic for those lateral traffics and things happening in container environments. That ability to actually see, which we've seen some of the cyber threat actors now embed their painful applications inside of encrypted traffic. We now have the ability to see that. Again, you may not see when they get in, but you'll see the work and the activities that they're trying to do as they navigate across the network. And we think from Gigamon's perspective, we're able to help on the security side to deliver that and give you notification to your various tools that you use to go and manage that. Aniket, you got some insight you want to deliver on the security side as well?
Yeah, I'll just supplement your answer with a few other things on the aspect of the shared responsibility model that the public clouds encourage you to think about. What I'll quickly emphasize is that the risks the workload face, the risks that the workloads have to mitigate and have to contend with, do not change when you go from on-premise to one public cloud to the other. Because the risks don't change, the security posture should not change. The way you are securing your workloads should not change. And I'm saying this at the cost of repeating myself, but it's worth emphasizing that because the risks don't change, so should your security posture not change. And choose an architecture, choose a deployment paradigm that allows you consistency in how you secure your workloads, not compel you to change based on where you are, right? As long as you're given that assurance. By the way, if you choose the native public cloud offerings as they are today, the problem is that the way you secure your workload in cloud A is very different from the way you secure your workload in cloud B. The features and functionalities are different, the interfaces are different, and therefore if it weren't for a layer of abstraction that hides those discrepancies, that hides those differences, you'd end up having to apply different security postures based on where the workload is, right? So that's something that I'll recommend customers should avoid.
Yeah, and that I'll just add one last thing, Aniket, and that is that then introduces a whole new aspect of security management, because your administrative staff now is having to learn multiple different types of interfaces and technologies, again, that may not have the full level of services,
Precisely.
which increases the cost, right? It also goes back to increasing the cost that's tied to it.
Precisely. Absolutely.
Such important information and details there on this. Chris and Aniket, I want to thank you so much for being on with us today. You provided so much knowledge, such useful information that we can all use to help optimize our cloud journey. I appreciate your time and your efforts in this. We love hearing about what Gigamon and what Nutanix are doing, such innovative companies. It's just been a pleasure to have you on, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you, Gigamon.
Okay. Well, that was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that presentation from Chris and Aniket. They put together such an informative show here, and it had some great answers to the questions. Thank you, the attendees, for the great questions. We really appreciate it. Remember also that Gigamon and Nutanix will follow up on any questions they didn't get to today. So if you didn't get a question answered, have no fear. You will be hearing from them. And now it's time for audience participation. We've got a poll up for you. Let us know what additional information you'd like from Gigamon. You're already starting to vote, and I'm going to leave this poll question up here for a little while I give away, do my last duty here for the event and give away that $250 Amazon gift card. Now, remember, as I said at the beginning, that you do have to be present for the entire event to be eligible to win. And we do have a winner for today. And that winner is Charlie Burry from Ohio. Congratulations to you, Charlie. We will be in touch very soon to get you your gift card. So with that, everyone, we are wrapped for this today. On behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Gigamon and Nutanix for making this event possible. I want to thank again Chris and Aniket for doing such a great job for everyone here today. I want to thank all of you attendees for being here, for your great questions, for your interest in a topic that is as hot as it gets and that is so fraught today. I mean, optimizing the cloud implementations and management and all that. Fewer things are more important. So it was a great time here, a great time of learning and education for me. I hope it was for you too. And with that, I'm going to let you get back to the rest of your day. Thanks, everyone, for being here. And I look forward to seeing you in our next Actual Tech Media event. Have a great rest of your afternoon, folks.